Did you ever look forward to doing a live performance?
Hell no. No, because my first really live performances were on live television, and it was absolutely frightening. My very first experience live was on Lux Television Theater, which was taken from Lux Radio Theater. And what they did was they always had a young starlet, a girl, because they were promoting the soap and how soft it was and how gentle it was on the skin. They would have a young starlet do one of the commercial breaks. No, actually two of them. And you had to look into the camera, which is really hard. It's very hard to look into this machine instead of into a person's face. And you, of course, had to memorize it. That was that was the very first experience. It is a miracle that I ever did live television again after that. Because I almost had a breakdown. I was so frightened after it was all over that I just started to shake violently and cry from nerves. But I had to talk about, and you know, as an actress, as a young actress in films, I use Lux soap because it's so gentle on my skin and when it lathers and this kind of stuff. And it was probably fully I would guess a minute or maybe 30 seconds. For all intents and purposes, it was a lifetime of talking about this product. And when I finished the second one, I just sat down and started to cry and tremble, and no one had any idea what was the matter with me. I mean, they'd never seen anyone react this way before. I was shattered. It was so frightening. Because, again, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's making a mistake in front of hundreds of thousands of people. At that time, I don't think it was 1 million, but it was hundreds of thousands. You're not making a mistake in front of one small house full of people in a theater. It's very scary. And, you know, everyone wants to be perfect. Actors particularly.
If you thought to examine it, do you think you might come up with why you tended not to get so many ethnic roles in the live TV?
I've never been able to figure that one out. It's interesting to me that because when I think of it, but always in filmed television, always the senorita. I mean, all the titles, The Marriage of Liplet, which was Fireside Theater. I was an Indian maiden. The Saint and the Senorita, which was my first filmed television show. It was always that in filmed television. And the few live things I did, which were really not that many, were not Hispanic. So it says to me this much, that the people who were running those shows, the live shows, were very much had the New York mentality. And if I had been in New York, I probably would have done more television, more live television, and done less ethnic stuff. It was the kind of thinking that also went hand in hand with theater thinking, where you could do roles that weren't necessarily Hispanic. Or if they were at the very least not stereotypical roles. They just had a different take on things like that. And with film television, I did nothing but. I think the Run for Your Life, the Ben Gazzara thing, and it stands out probably because of that, was not a Hispanic character. And it's not that I mind playing Hispanic characters, not in the least. It's that I mind the stereotypical stuff. And almost all of them were like that. In The Father Knows Best, I played an East Indian girl. Now, you know, nowadays that would not wash. It would be like playing an American Indian girl now.
You did two really significant film roles. One was King and I, the other West Side Story, musicals. How did you get those roles?
The King...
You mentioned The Marriage of Lit. That was the Schlitz Playhouse of Stars.
That was the Schlitz Playhouse, that's right.
Do you remember doing the actual production?
The Marriage of Lit. Actually, we went to Mexico to do that. In those days, yeah. I think that may have been my very first trip to Mexico City where we did this particular film. And I remember there was a wonderful actor in it named Frank Silvera, who was from New York Theater, who just kept saying, you really ought to go to New York. You really ought to do theater. You shouldn't be doing this kind of crap. You ought to go to New York. But I was too scared.
Was there much location shooting outside of Hollywood then?
Not really. There with the westerns, obviously, but there was always we'd go over to Calabasas and shoot there. Every western in the world went there, but or somewhere in the valley in California. But this was unusual. I don't remember why that happened, why they did that, but that's where we did it.
I'll run through a couple of these, and if you have any special memories of some of these, such as Fireside Theater, Saint and Senorita.
The Saint and the Senorita, where I played a fiery Mexican girl who wore Spanish combs and mantillas. I mean, they really didn't know the difference. And, I was in no position, or felt I was in no position to say, well, wait a minute, if she's wearing these big Spanish combs and the lace shawls over that, that's Spain. That ain't Mexico. But this kind of stuff went on all the time, and we always had the same accent. And, of course, I never spoke without an accent. I longed to speak English as I speak it now, and it was really depressing for me. It was just so hard, because every damn thing that was offered to me was always these girls, why'd you no love Ola no more? Which is funny now, but oh, man. I mean, I had deathless lines.
Do you remember?
Do you think you can fool Conchita? Hands on hips, nostrils flaring. I used to swear that there was a Rita Moreno makeup kit that consisted of a shoebox with pancake number, 68, which was usually dark and brown, 2 hoop earrings, and a wig. That was the Rita Moreno makeup kit for almost everything I did in filmed television.